Welcome back. So last time we met, we talked about social anxiety and its effects. This week, we're going to talk about managing loneliness, right? We're going to talk about how to cope, right? That's that word cope again, how to deal or cope with loneliness. All right, on today's agenda, we're going to talk about what loneliness is, some of the causes, myths about loneliness, and then I have some resources at the end that you can keep for yourself or you can share with the people around you. All right. So before we begin, let's have a mental health check-in. All right. So choose a number. You can write it in the chat. You can unmute yourselves, name an emotion you feel every day or something that you are feeling today. All right. So I am about an 8 and a 4. I think some things come up. I get confused. I have to problem solve, right? So today I'm about an 8 and a 4. So let's see, what mood are you? How do we feel today? Well, hopefully we had some good responses. All right, no 3s today. You're not crying today, unless it's a happy cry. All right, very good. All right, so what is the real meaning of loneliness? Let's just hop right into it. What is the definition of loneliness? Can anyone share? What is loneliness? So here is my definition of loneliness. Loneliness is the state of being alone and feeling sad about it. It's a feeling of sadness or even anxiety that occurs when you want company. Loneliness can also cause people to feel empty, alone, unwanted, right? People who are lonely often crave human contact. So our brains are wired um, to want connection with other people, right? So when we start to feel distant from other people, negative emotions can creep in, right? It can also cause people to feel empty. Does anyone have any personal experiences with feeling lonely that you feel comfortable sharing? All right. So, as we mentioned, right, loneliness happens to everyone, right? It is a real thing, right? But it affects people in many different ways. So, let's talk about that. What happens when you feel lonely? So, everybody is different. Loneliness can affect people in many ways, right? What happens when you feel lonely? So, here's something that I wrote down. Uh-oh. Zoom in. All right, here we go. You may feel isolated from others, right? You may not want to be around people. You know, it sounds weird, right? If you're lonely and we are naturally want to connect with other people, why do we feel isolated? But we'll talk about that. Is being alone and feeling uh, lonely the same thing? You also, some people may feel upset and worried that it's never going to end. How many of you have ever felt that way? You know, if you're feeling sad and have all these negative emotions, that is never going to end. I'm never going to feel happy again. I'm never going to feel normal again. I've had that happen to me a bunch of times, right? We're human, it happens. You also may feel that nobody cares about you. That goes back to the that feeling of uh, feeling unwanted, right? Also, it can be confusing, especially when you don't know why you feel this way. I had so many of my friends and people around me say, I just don't know why I feel lonely, or I just don't know why I'm upset. It's just a bad day. So that's pretty much why I did that mental health check-in in the beginning, right? When you are able to identify what's causing it, you can help with your mood. Some people may feel that they want to escape, that they want to get away from people, right? That goes back to that. Well, if you're feeling lonely, why do you want to escape? Why do you want to isolate from other people, right? Because you may feel that you're unwanted. Nobody cares, right? It also it can cause you to remember painful past experiences of feeling abandoned, right? Loneliness, especially like being alone by yourself, when those negative emotions creep in. So that's why it's important that we talk about how to manage loneliness. Because if we aren't keeping occupied, our brain can take over and we can overthink. How many of you are overthinkers on this lesson today? I am sometimes, right? Overthinking happens, and that can also cause loneliness. All right, very good. Let's see. So what causes loneliness? So now that we know the definition, what causes it? What are some life events or some things that happens in life that can cause loneliness? Anybody want to share? All right, so here's what I wrote, right? And you all may have different responses, but here's some things that I added to my list, right? Moving to a new neighborhood. You don't know anyone. That can definitely make you feel lonely, right? Changing schools. Oh, that is a huge one. And something that I can relate to. I remember going to high school, and my mom worked at my high school. And I remember not knowing anyone there. And I was like, who am I going to sit with at lunch? So I sat with her. So I wasn't technically alone, right? We'll talk about the difference. But I felt lonely because I didn't know anyone. I didn't have any friends, right? So changing schools was something that I can relate to. How about your parents getting a divorce? Can that cause feelings of loneliness? Absolutely. Fights with friends, right? Fights with your friends are normal. It's healthy, right? But sometimes those bad arguments or those bad fights, right, can make you feel like you don't have any friends. Being bullied. I think we all pretty much know that, right? And I can guarantee that some of us on this call have experienced being bullied and you feeling lonely and feeling that no one can help, right? It's not a good feeling. Seeing posts on social media about activities that you weren't invited to. Now, social media is a whole different thing, a whole different world. Social media has caused us to feel like we don't have enough. Maybe we don't have enough money or enough friends. So that can cause us to feel lonely. Or if we see our friends hanging out and we weren't invited, that can cause us to feel lonely. So I encourage you all to take a break from social media. Take a break. Don't engage too much. Because everything you see online isn't always real. All right. Anybody have any other suggestions? All right. Very good. So we're going to talk about some myths and some facts about loneliness. All right. So while loneliness is a really common feeling, there are some myths about loneliness, and and how to cope with it. All right. So I'm going to give you, maybe a myth or a fact, and you have to tell me which one that you believe it is. All right. So the first one, being alone and feeling lonely are the same thing. Is this a myth or is this a fact? What do we think? Being alone and feeling lonely are the same thing. All right, very good. So the answer for this one is a myth. It is a myth. The fact about it is you can be in a room full of people and still feel lonely, right? That goes back to when I said that I still had my mom there eating lunch with me, but I still felt lonely. I didn't have my friends there. Being alone can be enjoyable for some people, and they don't feel lonely at all. So you can be alone. You can be alone in your room, but do you feel lonely? Right? So alone is sort of like the actual thing. Like you're actually alone in your room, but loneliness is more of the feeling, if that makes sense, right? Alone is like the situation. Loneliness is more of the feeling alone. Right? How about this one? Loneliness can be a complex and painful feeling. It's more than just feeling sad. It can bring up other strong feelings inside of us that are sometimes hard to deal with. Is this a fact or is this a myth? What do we think? So for this one, this is actually a fact. Loneliness is complex and can be painful for some people, right? But there is a myth that says loneliness is just sadness. You just feel sad. No, not all the time, right? It's more than just feeling sad. I can be lonely and feel angry, right? I can feel lonely and abandoned. So loneliness is more than just sadness. It's a combination of different feelings, right? How about this one? Loneliness is something you learn to live with. You just live with it. Is this a myth or is this a fact? You just live with it. So the answer for this one is a myth. Loneliness is something that is something you learn to live with. That's a myth. The fact is, loneliness will usually pass on its own. However, feeling lonely all the time could be a sign that you need extra support, right? So, so key sentence: loneliness will usually pass on its own. You don't just learn to live with it; it goes away, right? You don't always feel lonely. This is just a moment in your life that you may feel lonely, right? So loneliness is something you learn to live with. That is a whole myth. All right, very good, very good. I hope that slide taught you more about loneliness. So loneliness and its effects. When you're lonely a lot, it can affect you in many ways, right? So what are some effects of loneliness? What does loneliness cause you to do or to act or in your behaviors? So here's what I wrote down, right? When you feel lonely, you might feel more stress, right? We talked about stress during our last lesson. It can affect your sleep, right? You may not feel well rested, right? Or you may sleep a lot. That's something that I might add, right? You may not get enough sleep, but some people might sleep too much when they feel lonely, right? They stop taking care of their appearance or their hygiene, right? Find different outlooks on life that can be negative. So they're viewing life as negative. There's nothing positive about life. Everything is just negative. Also, they start showing signs of depression or anxiety, right? That shouldn't be a surprise. If you're feeling lonely, if you're feeling unwanted, that can absolutely trigger depression and anxiety. And also, here's a huge thing, right? Some people turn to drugs or alcohol to feel better, right? Some people use that to cope. That's a coping strategy for people who are stressed, who have social anxiety, who may feel lonely, right? Some people turn to those things to make them feel better. But see, these are just some of the effects that loneliness can cause, right? Anybody have anything else to add? All right, very, very good. All right, so I wanted to add this slide. I said I would add it last time during our previous lesson. So when we talk about loneliness, when we talk about social anxiety, when we talk about different things like that, it's a real thing and affects many people around us. So I added this slide because I wanted to. Let me see if I can move my screen over. Okay, I'm going to disappear for a sec. There we go. All right. So I wanted to add some faces that you may recognize that may have experienced loneliness or social anxiety, right? Different mental health disorders. So maybe that you can relate and understand that it doesn't just happen to just normal people that we know. Celebrities are human and it happens to them too. I brought up Summer Walker during our last lesson because she has experienced social anxiety. Kehlani, that's my girl. I love her music. Right, but she has experienced depression, even suicidal thoughts. And she's been very open about talking about how she felt lonely after a breakup. Kanye West also has been open about his mental health disorder, bipolar disorder. He has also experienced loneliness, right, when he lost his mother years ago. So these are some of the faces that you may recognize, right? The celebrities are human. These things happen to everyone, right? And there are so many different celebrities too, Beyonce, other people who have, I think Demi Lovato as well, have experienced some feelings of loneliness and has been open about it. So it's nice to see that celebrities that we listen to the music almost every day experience the same thing that we do. All right. Any other celebrities that you all want to add to this list that you know has been very open about their mental health? I named Beyonce, but I'm sure there are so many different people. All right, very good. So how to deal with loneliness? How do we deal with it? What do we do? So I know I have my list here, but I want to hear from you all. How do you deal with loneliness? What do you do to make yourself feel better? So here's my list. I wrote help others. I don't know about you all, but helping others makes me feel good about myself, right? So helping others will definitely help with feelings of loneliness. Reconnect with old friends. Some of you may have friends that you haven't talked to in a while, maybe even gotten in a fight with them. Reconnecting with them, even if that means to apologize. I don't know who I'm talking to, but somebody on this call may need to apologize to their old friend. Reconnecting with your old friends. Try something new. Try something new. I signed up for kickboxing. That didn't last very long, I must say, but I signed up for kickboxing and it was a great, great exercise to help with my mental health. Right? If you like journaling, if you like music, try something new. Turn to activities you do alone into group activities. So if you like gaming, I know some people in here like to play games, right? Don't play alone. Invite a friend over. Spend time with animals. How many of you have pets? I have a dog. His name is Biscuit, and Biscuit is about 12 years old. He is old. He is an old dog. But spending time with animals is a great way to help cope with loneliness. Also, write down 5 things you love about yourself. I did this anxiety a bunch of times with some of my groups, and you'll be surprised how well that helps. When you feel good about yourself, even in those states of loneliness, you won't feel as alone, you won't feel as bad because you're very self-aware. You know that this is gonna pass. I'm feeling lonely right now, but maybe tomorrow I'll feel better. Maybe I'll take a shower and I'll feel better. A bath always helps. Lighting a candle, that's also a good way to help deal with loneliness because it calms you down. Any other ways to help cope or deal with loneliness? All right, very good. Very good. So I have some true or false questions, and then we're going to get into the resources at the end. All right, so please type in the chat, unmute yourselves, whatever you feel comfortable with. So is this statement true or false? People in the US are becoming less lonely. Is this true or is this false? Meaning they're not becoming lonely. Is this true or false? So the answer for this one is false. It's false. And hopefully everyone got that one right. We are in a pandemic, right? So, and we originally couldn't even be around our family and friends, right? So this is absolutely false. The numbers of people feeling lonely are skyrocketing, right? So remember that too. When you start to feel lonely, right, start to feel alone, right, as we learned, those are 2 different things, right? Remember, we're going through a pandemic as well. Most of us are going to school virtually. It's not the same. So it's okay to feel lonely right now. All right, very good. Next question. True or false, loneliness is a mental health problem. Is this true or is this false? Is loneliness a mental health problem? This might be a trick question. So think hard about this one. So the answer for this one is false. And the reason for that is that loneliness may cause mental health problems, right? But feeling lonely isn't uncommon, if that makes sense, right? Feeling lonely is just a part of life, but it isn't a mental health problem for all people, right? As we stated, loneliness affects people in different ways. So someone may feel lonely and feel alone, right? But it may not last that long. But for someone else, right, they may feel lonely for a long time. And that can be a cause of a mental health problem, right? Depression, anxiety, that can be a cause, right? When your loneliness begins to feel like it's too drawn out, that can be a cause of a mental health disorder or a mental health problem. All right, very good. All right, last question. True or false? Loneliness can affect people at any age. Is this true or is this false? So think about it. Can little kids feel lonely? Is this true or false? This one was pretty much easy. The answer for this one is true. It's true. And I must add that older adults, right, maybe even our grandparents, right, who are living in elderly homes, older adults have the highest rate of feeling lonely. So let's keep that in mind. All right, everyone. Very good. So I like to also add my resources at the end. I'm going to disappear for a sec. All right, so important hotlines. So I just wanted to add these on there because I don't know who needs it, who wants to share it with a friend or the people that they are around. But these hotlines are important to use if you ever are feeling extremely lonely or need someone to talk to. The National Suicide Prevention Hotline is not for just anyone who feels suicidal, right? It's for people who feel lonely, who don't have anyone or feels like they don't have anyone to talk to about their issues or their problems, right? That is a good hotline to use. The National Drug Hotline, for you or for someone you may know who is struggling with a drug problem, right? That's a good hotline to use. And also the LGBT National Youth Talk Line. So for the youth or the young people who identify with the LGBTQ community, and you're feeling alone and you're feeling sad, that hotline can be used for just that, for people that need to talk. All right, so take a screenshot, take a picture, whatever you need to do, and share this with yourself or your loved ones who may need it. These are important hotlines. And I called every one of them to see if they work. So they work. This is a good resource to use. All right. All right, everyone. Any questions? So use this time to talk about what you learned. If you want to add anything, feel free to do that. Anyone have any suggestions or need my contact information, please get that from Miss Melissa. I'm here to talk. Any resources that you may need, please use me as a reference. All right, everyone? All right. Well, I am so glad that we got through another lesson. I hope that these lessons you learned more about yourself. You are able to take away from it. And then you will feel comfortable to have these conversations more with your friends or your family or whoever you're around. These conversations are very, very important. All right, everyone. So I will see you all soon. Bye, everyone.